Hi, welcome to the second issue of Stunt Flyer Video Magazine. This month we're going to take a trip to the 70th AMA Nationals and see some of the stunt airplanes and meet some of the pilots who flew in the stunt program this year. We're also going to take a trip to Long Island and meet Vic Maluso, Pampa's finishing columnist and also the retiring District 2 director of Pampa. Vic will show us some of his scale-like stunt airplanes and talk a bit about his history of stunt flying and how he began in the stunt event. And then we're going to come back here and we're going to take a look at my Frisky Pete old-time stunt airplane, which was a Cal Smith design. You may have heard that I had a pretty bad summer. I lost two very good control line stunt airplanes. Both of my Saturns were lost this year, one to a broken lead out and one to a broken push rod. And that's going to necessitate me having to build two brand new airplanes for next year. And matter of fact, right in front of me here is a wing for one of them, which is a GeoStar wing with about 645 square inch wing area. And this is going to go into a much more updated version of my Genesis design. And I'm going to build two Genesis this year, one hopefully with retracts and this one with fixed gear. This will afford us a chance to show you many of the building techniques that we like to use, including what's here in front of us, the Lost Foam wing fixture. And there will be a dedicated video to this, but we're also going to show in Stunt Flyer Video Magazine some of the advantages of this technique and a rather abbreviated how-to on how to do it. And we're also going to show a little bit about how to mold fuselage top blocks and bottom blocks, and some of our other favorite building techniques as we go along. So stay with us for the next few issues, and I think you'll see some interesting building techniques. But for now, let's get in the car and head for Muncie.
Good morning, I'm Charles Reeves from Paducah, Kentucky. I've got a Haldey-Bolt stunt wagon designed in 1948, powered by a Fox 59 long nose, rear intake. The plane came out a little bit heavier than I wanted it to, but don't they all? This one, silk span covered, finished with cream SIG butyrate dope, metallic maroon aerogloss, and a clear polyurethane top coat to protect everything. I built it 5 years ago, flew it at the VSC first time 4 years ago, competed with it in the Nats that same year, and I'm back again with it. I enjoy flying the airplane, but I wish I had it 6 ounces lighter like everybody does. I set the controls up rather insensitive, and I've got the handle cut way down. I probably don't have over 15 degrees of movement in the elevator, which helps a lot. First flight, I stalled on every maneuver. An original Froome spinner helps keep the nose light. Use a PowerPoint 12.6 prop cut down to 11.6. I've got it pitched 6 inches all the way out with a Prather pitch gauge, finished with polyurethane, running about a 4.2 ounce tank in it. It's all I could hammer in. The aluminum gear plugs in from both sides, bolts in from the bottom, and I enjoy flying it. It's a real old-time looking plane, kind of reminds me of the GB. with the cockpit back so close to the rudder. And I enjoy flying it. I saw Alan Brickhouse fly his, knew that's what I wanted. Now I want to build a 35 version.
Hello, my name's Ward Delano. I'm from Grand Rapids, Michigan, down here enjoying the gathering of eagles at Muncie. I resurrected an old stunt job, although it's not old. I built it about 2 years ago. It's called the Hot Rock. It was a popular stunt ship in about 1948. And it used the drone diesel, which was a fairly popular engine at that time. And I just always thought that it was kind of an unique and unusual engine, and I like diesels anyway. And so I looked around for the different plans available and decided on the Hot Rock. It's not a bad flying airplane. I think I built it a little heavy compared with the way they did back when they were doing stunt patterns with them. But it's still fun and unique, and I enjoy it. And I'm certainly having a great time down here at Muncie. Thanks much.
Hi, my name is Doug Benedetti. I'm from Cranford, New Jersey. I fly mostly old-time airplanes. They were ones that were around when I was a kid. I enjoy them. I like doing silk. This one is a super duper zilch with an Anderson Spitfire on ignition. And it's something to play with. It's not really a competitive airplane, but it does fly the whole pattern, and I have a lot of fun with it. I like doing them, finishing the planes in the way they were finished back in the 50s or 40s, which is usually a patterned silk, either checkers or squares. And this isn't one of my better pieces of work, but I have some that I take pretty good pride in as far as lining up the squares and getting them straight. And I enjoy building as much as flying and the people involved in the sport.
Good afternoon. This is Dave Platt here. Bob has asked me to show you guys my old stunt model here, classic stunt model from 1964. It's called Parakeet, as you see. And we'll turn it around for you and let you see some different aspects of it. I was telling Bob about how this design came about, and he thought you might be interested. In 1964, I was still in England, and I was a designer for the Keelcraft company. Keelcraft is a big company in England that makes all kinds of models, rather like SIG does here. They have everything from hand-launched gliders to scale RC. And I worked for them for a while, and then full-time, that is to say, and then I left, and but I continued to work for them on a consultant basis, and Eddie would come to me and ask me to design a model, and I would do that. This aeroplane originally was intended to be a Keelcraft kit, but that was 1964, and that was a kind of time of turmoil in the industry. Radio control was coming in real hot and heavy then, especially half-A radio control. And at one point Eddie said to me, you know, I think, Dave, that stunt model you did, we might put that on hold for a while. Or words to that effect, which was Eddie's way of saying, let's do something else. And so at the time I designed a little half-A radio control model that ended up getting called the Gyron and became a Keelcraft kit, and that's all part of history. But meanwhile, I liked the Parakeet well enough that I said to him, well, do you object then if I sell plans for this thing? And he said, no, I don't mind if you do that. So I sold a number of plans for Parakeets, and a number of guys built them and flew them and liked them. Originally I had a Johnson Stunt Supreme in mind, but when I came to build this one again about 5 years ago, in 1991, I looked all over for a Johnson Stunt Supreme and I wasn't able to find one. And as a matter of fact, a few people tried to talk me out of the engine anyway, notably George Aldrich, who led me to suppose that the Johnson Stunt Supreme was not really the engine that it could be. So I got an OS 35S, which was an engine that I trust very well for this kind of a duty. The OS is a nice engine if the airplane isn't too heavy. So it has an OS 35S. There she is, kind of uncowled. The overall styling of the model, as you can see, is based upon a American Goodyear racer of the 1947 to 1950 sort of a period. Not specifically based on any one of them, but it could look like a minnow or any of them, any of the little racers. That was the styling. This particular one is covered with, just simply covered with lightweight rag tissue and clear doped orange tissue. So a little bit of black decoration, and that's it. Coat of chroma clear on there to fuel proof it, and there we are. She weighs 35 ounces. At the time I designed this aeroplane, I had read Ed Southwick's article on the Skylark, and a lot of what he said about building straight wings made a devil of a lot of sense to me, as it would have to anybody else who had seen the results of having bent wings. So at the time I designed this airplane, I designed it along similar lines to the Skylark, where you have a full depth sheet spar and the ribs egg crate into that, and the whole thing is done down on a flat board with everything center lined, and we end up with a nice straight wing. Let's see, what else? Not really much else to say about the aeroplane. It's a legal classic design, and there we are.
Hi, my name is Jim Lovell. I'm from Highland, California. That's just outside of Los Angeles, about 60 miles east. Today, in my classic stunt plane, I've got a Frank Warburton Tony. This was what I believe was the 1965 British Nationals winner. This is powered by an old OS 35 Max that I got out of the swap meet for about $5, and it runs great. Needs a little more power, but it's a real good running airplane engine. The plane weighs approximately 42 ounces. The paint on it is SIG dope. The color scheme I got out of the Jane's book of history of airplanes, and what I understand, this is the island-based version of the Kawasaki Tony. It was a very simple looking paint job, being light gray and a few other colors. So I chose this one for it. It can also double as a fun scale type airplane event, which I'm going to be probably entering hopefully this year. It is from the plans from the kit that is available. I like to build from plans, normally scratch. I had it out the VSC 8 this year and had some trimming problems, but got a lot of them worked out, and it's flying fairly decent for this era of an airplane. It could probably do a little better if I had a little more power out of the engine, or a different engine. But I'm having fun with it, and that's what this is all about, is having fun. I'm not the hotshot pilot and winner take all, so I'm going to have fun with it.
Hi, I'm Jack Sheeks. I'm here at the Nationals. What is this? This is Monday. Yeah, I'm flying one of my old Barnstormers. I've had 3 of these things. I've won the Nationals with them twice, so I kind of stick with them. This one here is the one from the Gillows kit, one of the old style jobbies with the thinner wing. Seems to fly exceptionally well, even in the wind. It will cut that. It's a fun event. If I win, I win. It's nice. If I lose, who cares? You know, they don't pay money for it. But I enjoy the camaraderie and all the people over here. And we have a bunch of them here. The top guys are practicing, and we got classic going. And if you're not here, you're the loser, not me, because I'm going to be here every chance I get until the fellow upstairs calls me.
Hi, I'm Frank McMillan. This is the George Aldrich Magnum, and we're here at the start of the classic event at the 1996 Nationals. This airplane has all along been a favorite of mine, and primarily because it's so radical, and it was an airplane that George designed that very few people built. Years ago, about 1960, I got a set of plans from George and made an airplane like this, and it really didn't fly all that well. And I thought, well, that's still a nice airplane. And then I had built another set of ribs with it, and I decided to make another airplane and put a McCoy 40 in it and flew it at the Nationals a couple of times. I thought that's a pretty decent flying airplane. So when it came to picking a classic airplane that was unusual, that nobody else has done yet, I decided I'd go for one of these. And since George was available to me in San Antonio, I had access to some of the original pieces that George had, plus the plans. So we took a molding of the original canopy, as you see here, which is kind of an unusual shape that fits with the lines of the airplane. And I also had the molding that he'd done the canopy, or the cowling from. So I made that, and I decided that since a lot of the structure on the airplane was unusual, much of the rear section is built up like a free flight. All of the rear surfaces are built up in the old classic style of half-inch balsa and ribs, but the fuselage is all cut out and has longitudinal stringers in it like a free flight. And I thought, well, maybe this will work, maybe it won't. But as it turned out, when I put the airplane together, it was exceptionally light and exceptionally strong, and it did work quite well. The overall weight of the airplane originally was right at 37 ounces, which I think it really needs to be, because if you look at the wing dead on, the wing is exceptionally thin. And I think probably this airplane wouldn't fly very well if the weight got much up into the low 40-ounce range, although George claimed that his airplanes flew real well in the mid-40s. Now, one of the things as I rotate the airplane around it, you can see is the radical plan form, and it's one of the things that attracted me to it. But as we flew the airplane, I found it kind of erratic in a sense in the turn. Sometimes it would turn, sometimes it wouldn't. And the trick seemed to be sealing the hinge lines. Once I sealed the hinge lines, the airplane became a very honest flying airplane, and indeed flies quite well. The power plant I have in the airplane is an old OS-35S that's been chromed, and it runs extraordinarily well, and it seems to be a good combination to fly. In all, it's a very honest airplane, and the people that have flown it enjoy it. Would I recommend it for everybody? I'd recommend it for a good builder because the wing's got to be straight, but other than that, it tracks and flies extremely well in all the maneuvers. And I think that's probably a pretty good story.
My name is John Simpson. I'm from Fife, Alabama. This airplane is a Cavalier. It's an airplane that I came up with in 1960. The basis is a Charles Mackey Lark. It has a few nobler features and some Aries appearance. Flies pretty well, flies better than I do. This one's powered by a Fox 35 with George Aldrich ABC piston and cylinder and a Randy Smith Hemi head. Flies pretty good, and I'm having a lot of fun with it.
Yes, this is Sam Sherrata from Runnels, Iowa. It's an area right outside of the Des Moines area, and I guess I'm overwhelmed with the gnats this year. At Lubbock, Texas, there was only 20 advanced flyers. Now I believe there's 48. But anyway, a little bit about the airplane. It's a Mike Pratt design. Got geodesic wing ribs. Got an OPS 46 tune pipe engine. It's a Brian Ether tune pipe and a Brian Ether undercambered prop. The paint is SIG dope, 3 different color blues as you can see, and we use a metal flake with crushed glass in it. The plane is I don't know how to tell you, but it's very stable. I guess Mike Pratt's working on a different design right now. His is the same thing, except he has a jet look on it. Of course, this has a turtle deck. But anyway, it was a joy to build, and I guess I just don't know what else to say.
My name's Aaron Little. I'm from Aberdeen, North Carolina, and we're here at the 96 Nats. This airplane is actually really a Buccaneer 746 with a slightly different look and a OS 40 VF and tune pipe reworked by Randy Smith. This is my first Nats. We last year at this time I was flying beginner, so I feel like I'm moving on up here. I landed the other day and he put a hole in the canopy when the wind blew it over, which was not nice. But all in all, it's my first big ship, and I'm very happy with them. The tune pipe was working really well. There's some things I would change if I built another one, but so far I'm pretty pleased with this one.
This is Greg Volmart at the 96 Nats, being interviewed by Bob Hunt. Just got through with my second round. Not doing too well here this year. Forgot my triangles yesterday. It kind of puts me out of contention here, but having some big time fun. It's just a joy to be out here with all these modelers and all these airplanes. And second year back in the hobby after a long layoff, and flying Alan Brickhouse's design here, getting her trimmed out. Haven't had much airtime with the airplane, but it sure seems to groove, and I think with a little work and practice that we can get this bird doing it the way I want to. It's a fairly new engine. It's a stock 51 Tiger. Had lots of problems trying to get it to run rich. It just wanted to scream right out of the box, and I've tried fuels and went to the Thunderbolt glow plug, and now I'm getting where I can back the needle off just a tad, and starting to get some serious flights in. Wasn't really prepared for the Nats this year, but hopefully next year we'll be back again and have some more fun.
I'm Steve Moon. This is my brother Doug. This is my first Nats to fly in. He flew at the Lubbock Nats in '94 in beginner. I've got a plane I call the Moonwalker. It's a Buccaneer 746 wing, and the rest of it I designed myself. Tried to make it look a little different. I might have accomplished it. I've got an OPS 40 with pipe in it. And this is my brother Doug here.
And I have a Buccaneer 746. It's an Alan Brickhouse design. It's a great design plane. I'm flying advanced. This is my second Nats to fly in. We're both from Dallas, Texas. We've been flying for about 6 years. We've been flying the pattern for about 3. And we're having a great time out here. And it's been a great time. We're both we're learning a wealth of knowledge that we couldn't get anywhere else. And we just can't wait to come back and do it again next year.
Hello, Bob. This is Larry Drone. I'm from Asheboro, North Carolina. This is my first Nats and my first real full-size stunner that I've had a lot of confidence in. It's a Randy Smith Intrepid. It's an Aero 40 with tune pipe. It's doing a real well job for me. I just needed to get more handle time, and hoping next year we can be more competitive than what we had this year. But it's been a blast, and my nephew's here with us, and he's coming along real strong, and we're looking forward to a real great time, which we've had already, and just a camaraderie with all the stunners and all the well-knowns, the Hunts, the Warwidges, the Smiths, the Hemstraws, and on and on and on. And we really appreciate it. We've learned a lot from these folks, and looking forward to a continued interest in stunt.
Okay, my name's Joe Adamusco. I'm from Bucks County, Pennsylvania, right outside of Philadelphia. And I'm really happy to be here to fly with all the big boys. And this is my new Spitfire that Wendy Erdnowski and I co-designed, worked on together. Really, we started this project back in April of 1995 and try to do something a little different. The basic wing has a Pattern Master root rib, and it was modified, of course, to get the elliptical format installed. It has kind of a Dave Gerke Novi reflex airfoil at the 2 ribs at the tip, trying to combine some of the old elliptical technology with some new things that I've been working on. The stabilizer is a built-up geodetic stab sheeted with 16th. It has a wiggly rudder on here that Al Raby made famous. Super Tiger 60, and a lot of other neat things that went into molded top and bottom blocks, fiberglass cowling, and I'm using a Bali 4-bladed 12-inch propeller. Seems to work okay for me, and so far so good.
Hi, this is Mike Pratt. I'm from Montezuma, Iowa, here at the 1996 AMA Nationals here in Muncie, Indiana. Refinished last year's airplane and painted it with white pearl, candy apple blue, and candy apple red with gold and accented trim. Weighs 62 ounces, has a PA-40 Smith Werwidge pipe, clunk fuel tank with Bob Hunt modifications. The airplane is doing quite well, and if you look why I'm smiling so much, got a lot of people in the background giving me a lot of crap. Oh geez, thanks Randy. Airplane's flying good, I'm having a good time, weather's not too bad, a little windy, and Gene Martini is over there laughing at me, so it's all doing quite well.
Hi, I'm Gene Martine. This is my model this year of the Intrepid XL, which is basically a stretched out version of the SV12 series by Randy Smith. It's about 680 square inches. Finish is just a SIG finish from base all the way up to the top. There's not very much clear on it, but I wanted to build a light airplane and have an airplane ready for competition. I live in Jacksonville, Florida, been down there for 26 years. Started out with model airplanes back in 1954 when in high school. Started flying competition about 1956, but didn't compete in any of the big events, just some local contests. Last large contest I entered, or the last nationals, was 1981, where my Mariner received the first 20-point awards. Mariner was about a 620 square inch airplane that was finished quite well. But I had a layoff for about 11 to 12 years due to medical reasons and other reasons. Been away from it, and last year I started building again. Thanks to some friends around the Jacksonville, St. Augustine area got me back interested and started flying old time and talked to Randy and a couple other people and got involved with the big airplanes again. As I said earlier, this is the Intrepid XL. It's powered by one of Randy's PA-40s, rear exhaust, standard uniflow system, non-pressure. Flies quite well. Got about 100 flights on it and still learning. Airplane has a lot in it. After I get back to Jacksonville, I'll be playing around with a 3-bladed prop, see if I get a little more tension, especially on my overhead maneuvers, but I am quite pleased with it.
Hi, my name's Joe Reinhardt. I'm from Columbus, Ohio. It's about a 3-hour drive from here. This is my airplane, Cycle 7. It's my own design. It's number 7 in a series of cycles. It's all built up, finished in SIG dope. Came out about 61 ounces with a Super Tiger 60. Been doing this hobby probably since mid-50s. Just doing a lot lately, the last 10 years. Sure enjoy it. And I have to give a lot of thanks to my wife, and she's been pretty patient here to get me through this last couple of weeks to get here, so put in a lot of practice and really enjoyed it here.
Hi, I'm Jim Schuett and I'm from Aurora, Illinois. This is my son Patrick. He's competing at the Nationals, 1996 Nationals, in senior as well as in advanced. During the course of the week we got some real good news in the form of an AMA scholarship my son was offered. He goes to currently a student at the University of Illinois studying aeronautical engineering, and I'm going to turn it over to him since he's the one that's doing all the flying and all the winning.
Hey, I'm glad to be here. It's a lot of fun flying. It's great to get a lot of flying in here in advanced and stuff like that. And basically I'm just having a good time, doing as best I can, and just enjoying meeting a lot of new people and stuff like that.
How you doing so far in advanced?
I'm holding my own, let's just say that.
How about your last flight?
Last flight felt real good. Best flight I've flown yet. So.
You don't know the score yet, do you?
Nope.
Just hoping the judges liked it?
That's right.
Great. You going to give some of that $5,000 to your mom and dad?
I don't think so.
Come on. Dad needs a new car.
Dad can do without a new car.
No, seriously, folks, it's been incredible what AMA has done for the youth in this country, giving my son a chance to go to further education and continue in his pursuit of aviation. He's been flying since he was about that high. I've got another boy at home, unfortunately playing baseball this week, but that's good for him. But he's also a modeler, and I can't say enough good about it. We've got great weather. It's a fantastic site, and I'd like to see everybody else come out here and enjoy it.
This is a modified Magnum. Actually, most of it's stock. It's covered in what I call the lost paint process. It's basically just covered in a SIG ply span, and it's an all-dope finish. And the ply span it's just a yellow tissue, so it eliminates a lot of paint. And it's a Super Tiger 51, straight out of the box with a lot of head gaskets in it. So.
What's it weigh?
56.5 ounces.
That's good.
Hi, this is Jim Krieger from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, here in the Muncie Nationals, enjoying ourselves as many of us do. We wish we had some maneuvers back. I just finished flying, but the fellowship we have here is something fantastic. I started flying, I guess, when I was in 3rd grade. Dropped out when I was a senior in high school and got involved in other things, as many of us did about that time. And when my son got interested in the models, we got back in it, and now he's dropped out, and I'm in it and enjoying it probably more than ever. One thing I've noticed is the camaraderie that we have, I think, is better than we had in the early and middle 50s. I have 3 children. Ann, who just got married a month ago, our oldest, 28. My son Dan, 25, and our little Becky, who's a senior in high school at 17. In fact, that's probably good that I mentioned that, because I guess as we try to keep this, this is probably a number 4 priority after job, and then comes job, and then comes family, and then comes, as maybe you could tell by the rudder, my Lord and Savior, which I'm not embarrassed to talk about. We have an organization that just started here in the. It started actually probably more with the aerobatics group than it did with some of the other events, and a lot of that has to do with the editor of this magazine, Bob Hunt, and Will Hinton, some really neat men that also believe in the same beliefs that I do, and that we're not here by accident, that there is a creator, and that also helps us to keep this event in perspective, that if I mess up a landing or wreck an airplane, that 100 years from now, that's not going to make a difference in what is important. So because of that, we've started a group called, as maybe you can see by the rudder, Fellowship of Christian Modelers. And it's not an elitist group. It's not a group of any Lutheran, Baptist, or any organization. It's those that profess to Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior, or are just interested in joining a group. We certainly don't ask for some testimony to join. And why do we do that? Well, one reason is when we come, a lot of our events are on Sundays, and we miss church. And yet we have fellowship with others here, so we said, let's just meet ahead of time, and we've started to have church services ahead of time. I guess a little bit about the airplane, and I guess we'll finish this up, is this is an Impact. Built Impact Basic Design, built with the lost foam principle. I guess that's what we're calling it, developed by Bob Hunt. It did make a lot lighter wing, and I really recommend it, and it's very straight, very rigid. And it's the first one I built that way because of the other commitments I was talking about earlier. It took me 2 years to finally get it done for this NATS. I had other airplanes though, so we just took our time. And in fact, this one was a little bit more fun. As the kids are getting older, my wife is an artist, so I said, you ought to help me with some of this. And she says, okay, and I've said this before. Well, this time I did some reproduced just outlines of the airplanes out of magazines or off the drawings, and we put them on a copy machine. And I gave her these copies of these things and came home the next day and she had about 15 different sketches made. And she came up with the Olympic year to saying, hey, let's do the Olympic thing and kind of the red, white, and blue. And if you're a Winston Cup guy, you'll see a little bit of Dale Jarrett's design there in his car with the red, white, and blue. And it's been neat because now I bring the airplane home and I spilled some fuel on it, hurt part of the cowling. She said, oh no, I see you got a scratch there. Now I'm a little frightened to fly the thing as much because it's become more of a family project, which certainly makes it more fun for me. So as you can see, this is a great event to get in, and again, probably some greater people than the event that really make it. Thank you.
I'm Bob Hazel. I'm from Sacramento, California. The model I have is the venturized version of the SIG Twister. It's powered by an OS-25 FP. I covered the model in polyspan. It is dyed with the aniline dye supplied by the same company. The finish on it is SIG nitrate. Color trim was from old Pactra I had lying around. It was clear coated with DuPont 380 clear coat. The model itself is 490 square inches, weighs 39 ounces. It's using a Rev Up 10.4 propeller. I built it because I wanted to have something that would fly in the wind and to try out the low pitch setup. So far it's flown extremely well. It exceeds the pilot's ability and it's made this whole Nationals in general great fun.
Hi, I'm Frank McMillan. I'm from San Antonio, Texas. I wouldn't really count as to how many Nationals I've been to. I guess the first Nationals I've been to was 1957 when George Aldrich won his last Nationals. I guess I was a teenager at that time, and stunt has been an activity that I've been unable to put from my mind and my heart for many, many years. This is the latest in a series of quadrant airplanes that may even go back to George Aldrich days when he was flying that Black Nobler. This is a 57-ounce aircraft built based on the Hunt Saturn wing using the lost foam construction method. The airplane is finished in a base of SIG butyrate dopes. From the color out, it's using DuPont acrylics with a clear overcoat. The motor is a Randy Smith Precision Aero 51, which is a fantastic motor. We're running the Bali props on home base fuel. The airplane approximately has 100 flights on it, about 670 square inches, and running a 27% stab, which is the first time I've tried it. It's running carbon controls, and unfortunately I haven't gotten into the carbon with this airplane yet. This is probably the best airplane that I've ever had, and that goes back a long way because I've had quite a few. It flies very, very nice smooth rounds and very, very good corners. I'm pleased with it, and I hope it stays around a long time. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Bill Rich. I'm from Valrico, Florida. That's near the Tampa Bay area. This is my SV11 for the 96 Nats. Actually, it's a combination of an SV and a Nova. Has the Nova wing and tail, and the SV really cosmetics more than anything else. I've got one of the Aero 40s in it, and as soon as I get home I'll probably put the 51 in it and try that one out too. But this Aero 40 is driving this plane very well, and I don't know what else to tell you. It's an all SIG finish, SIG dope from start to finish, and weighs about 61 ounces.
Hi, I'm Bob Gieske, and this is the fourth in the version of my pipe airplanes. It started out as a 60, Super Tiger 60, and then I went to the pipes, and this is the fourth one. Each one gets changed just a little bit here and there, and it seems like this is probably the best flying one of the bunch so far. Thank goodness for new construction techniques. It came out rather light. It's 49 ounces with an Aero 51 in it. The Aero 51 is like the motor in your car. You put gas in it and flip the prop. That's it. It works. The plane seems to fly pretty good, and I'm just enjoying the heck out of it.
Hello, stunt flyers. My name's Ted Fancher from Foster City, California.
here in Muncie, Indiana for the 70th Annual AMA Nationals Flying Control Line Stunt. Managed to qualify today to fly into finals on Friday and hopefully go on to fly into Walker Cup fly-offs. It'll be on Saturday. I'm flying for the second year in a row my aircraft, the Great Expectation, built from the Trivial Pursuit plans published in Stunt News about 2 years ago. This is the airplane I flew in China at the World Championships with the rest of our team, Dave Fitzgerald, Bob Hunt, and Paul Walker, along with Robbie Hunt as a junior. It was the highest placing aircraft of the team, although Paul Walker came in 4th as the defending champion. At that time, it was powered by an ONS-46VF AAC modified by Randy Smith. This last year, I converted it to a PA-51, also from Randy Smith. Engine seems to have a bit more power. I'm still on my learning curve with the engine, so it's not exactly the way I want it, but I hope by Saturday it's going to be running just fine. The airplane is a 60-inch span, has about 660 square inches of area, and weighs an ungainly 68 ounces. It's only the power of the PA or the OS-46 that manages the airplane to fly competitively. Hope to see you out at the Nats next year.
We're sitting here with Vic Maluso in his beautiful home in Selden, New York on Long Island. We're just north of the infamous Long Island Expressway, or as it's known as the world's longest parking lot.
Thank God I'm done with that.
Vic, it's good to see you.
Glad to have you here, Bob.
Yeah.
Glad to be here.
Vic, I first met Vic back in 1966. I had been flying stunt for about 1.5 years competitively, and we went out to a contest. Bill Simons and I went to a contest on Long Island. I guess it was just actually in Queens at the time.
Yeah.
The Academy of Aeronautics.
It was in Jackson Heights.
Jackson Heights. Right. And they had a model airplane meet there, and I had my Caprice at the time, I think it was.
I don't remember.
Showed up and was a full-body gleaming airplane. I was real proud of it. And this guy shows up, this little guy with a P-38 Lightning. Profile airplane. We all kind of snickered, like, oh, this would be nothing to beat.
With an NU-35 combat motor.
The guy looked a little bit like Buddy Holly. He had these black glasses on at the time.
Oh, please, don't bring that up.
And he proceeded to clean our clocks with that little P-38. And that was my first encounter with Vic Maluso. Vic, you've been flying stunt for how long now?
Actually, competitively, I've only been flying stunt perhaps a total of maybe 8 years. I flew 3 years from I believe it was 69 to 1972. I actually flew competition. Actually, built my first full-bodied stunt ship in 1967, and I didn't compete until 1968, and that was with one I called the Gemini. It was a powder blue airplane. I don't know if you remember that one.
Oh, sure.
With a 707 rudder on it with a PDOT tube sticking on it. Yeah, I've always been turned on to jets. But My actual competition, serious competition, started in 1969, and I only flew competitively for 3 years and got out of it in '72, and I came back to stunt, due mostly to your influence, in 1991. And I came back with that Nearing Special that I had bought, and subsequently went on to other designs. But basically about 8 years total.
Well, I remember back when you really got serious about it, back around '69, '70, you showed up at the field with an airplane you built in 8 weeks, I understand. And it was a replica, semi-scale replica, of a Grumman F-8
Crusader.
Right,
F-8 Crusader.
And it was complete with anhedral wings and drop tanks, and it just blew everybody away.
Don't forget the missiles.
The missiles.
Right, sidewinder missiles.
All the paint, it was just beautiful. And could you tell us a little bit about your influences in stunt? Obviously, are scale.
Right.
Because most of your airplanes, as is this beautiful F-14, which we'll get to in a little while here, are mostly scale-looking airplanes, and not just semi-scale airplanes in the manner that they have a paint scheme that's similar to a full-scale airplane. Your airplanes actually have many of the actual relief details of full-scale airplanes. Can you tell us why you got into that type of building?
Well, I've always been a model builder. You know, a stunt flyer is a very, very focused area, or stunt flying is a very focused area of the hobby, but I've always been a model builder. Ever since I was a child, I've always been interested in just building, whether it's cars, planes, boats, or anything. And of course, aviation has always been my first love. And I got into the scale portion of stunt flying as an offshoot of my scale building. I used to build scale models as a child, and then when Diane and I got married and we were living in Astoria, I started building scale seaplanes. Again, you can see from that Albatross, which I'm sure we'll talk about later. Right. I like seaplanes, and I just like the scale look. When we were living in the apartment, I didn't have room for large models or anything, so I started building small scale models, and I built a model of the Colonial Skimmer, remember the lake?
Sure,
which now lake, okay, and originally built it as a free flight, and I put control lines on it. I actually flew that off the water.
Was that out of the Berkeley kit? Or what?
That was out of the Berkeley kit at the time, and then I built a few privateers out from the Berkeley kits, and then I just, one day I went down to Flushing, actually I went to Willits Point Park in, which is now
Shea Stadium.
Yeah, which is now Shea Stadium. And I saw one Mr. Gene Schaefer and another Mr. Bob Lampione flying there. And I watched and I said, oh God, this is really something. And just before Diane and I had gotten married, I started a smoothie, a Bob Palmer smoothie. And I went back home. My parents were still living in Plainview, and I said, let me look around. And sure enough, in a crawl space, I found it. And I brought it back, and within a very short period of time, I had it built and flying. And I put floats on it, because I love seaplanes. I never got to fly it off floats, but what I did was I brought it down, and they took one look at it and laughed. Yeah, you know, they had a real smooth way about them back then. But they gave me some really solid advice, and I took it home, and I realized that the plane was really not, you know, I really couldn't resurrect it. So I built a ringmaster, just for the heck of it, to just get down there. And sure enough, by this time, they were flying in Flushing Meadow Park, which wasn't built yet. It was still a parking lot. And I met them down there, and within a week, Gene Schaefer and Bob Lampione had me flying a stunt pattern.
Oh, wow.
And Schaefer, in his usual way, came up to me and insulted me and did various other things. But he gave me some really good advice and said, don't come around here anymore. But
maybe he knew it was coming.
Right, I eventually became their worst nightmare. But from that ringmaster, I went to, I believe I had built a Novi, a Dave Gerke Novi, right? And I have some color pictures of that around. That flew real well. I think I had a Fox 35 in it. And from that Novi, I decided to build my first, well, even though that was a serious airplane, I didn't build it as a serious airplane. I just built it. It was, you know, I-beam, and there was a lot of concepts I was dealing with that I was very unfamiliar with at the time. But around that time, I had met you, and I had built the P-38 Lightning profile, which I was now flying competitively in starting to
Yeah, I'll
clean.
say.
And the funny part about that airplane is, which was typical of the stunters of the time, but this one really personified it, is that in calm weather, the plane flew really great. In the wind, it was like flying a combat ship.
Yeah.
It would just wind up and just...
But as I recall, that airplane had a tremendous corner, and that's always been your trademark, is a very, very hard, flat, solid corner. And that airplane was...
Well, flat and solid is questionable at this point in my career, but back then it was there. All right.
Put us all in our ears that day. I remember at the contest at the Academy of Aeronautics, you really had a phenomenal corner, especially a wing over. It was very obvious that you were a talent.
Well, I didn't realize at the time, and thank you for the compliment, but whether you call it a talent or an affinity for what I was doing, I really got turned on. That one meet really turned me on to the competitive aspect of stunt, and I decided to start getting serious. And as a result of that, I built that first, what I considered to be a full stunt ship, the Gemini. It was my design, quote unquote, like they were all our designs, you know. Basically what I did was...
Had a real East Coast look about it, though, that low slung.
Yeah, you know, and I've always liked the jet look, and that was the first of my jet look airplanes. When I built that airplane, again, Fox 35 was the power plane of choice, and it came out relatively light. I used one of your foam wings.
Oh, wow.
That's right.
That was a while ago.
What was the name of that company back then?
I forgot.
Okay. But in any case, I used one of your solid foam wings. The only coring was the 2 lead-out holes, and the plane still came in under 60 ounces.
With a Fox 35.
With a Fox 35, right? And it flew relatively well. And the next one after that was I've always liked the nobler look. Even though I like the jets, the classic stunt look is still to me a very classic look. And what I did was I used the chipmunk wing, again, one of your cord out wings.
This was more of an extended wing, I believe, at that time.
Yeah, it was an extended wing. They called it a modified chipmunk wing at the time.
Yeah. I used the same wing in my 105 Thunder Chief. I think after you used it, it worked so well for you, I stole the idea.
It worked extremely well. But I built another plane called the Gemini 2, as a matter of fact. I don't remember, was that British Racing Green?
With the landing gear that would float.
Right.
Kind of collapse up.
Right, it was Pontiac Videro Green. I'll never forget that. And it just had gold trim on it with my AMA number. And that plane flew extremely well. And my first real serious competition was at the Johnsville Naval Air Station.
I remember that, yeah.
With that airplane. And that year I came in third to, I believe, Gene Schaefer and Bob Lampione.
Right.
And Gene was so impressed with the airplane, he said, let me fly it. I let him fly. And this was the airplane I was planning to take to the Nationals.
Now, it has to be mentioned here that Gene flies clockwise, and you fly counterclockwise, and he hooked the up line of the airplane to the down line of the handle and vice versa, and flew it as if he was flying from the inverted position.
Right, and he scared the hell out of me because...
He did that to me a few times too with my airplanes.
But in any case, Gene was very impressed with the way the airplane flew, and he asked me to fly it after the meet, and I said sure. And this was the airplane I was planning to take to the 1970 Nationals. Now, this was early in the season. Actually, it was late in the previous season, late in '69. And Gene proceeded to snap the wing in half.
I remember that. I remember when that happened, yeah.
Well, you know, I had a notoriously hard corner at the time, but his was absolute perfection. It really was. The man was quite a flyer. In any case, he trashed my airplane. So
here you are, what, how many weeks before the Nationals?
This was 8 weeks before the Nationals. And I decided that, well, I was going to the Nationals no matter what, because back at that time, Diana and I had started our family, and my family commitments were really starting to...
Now, it must be said here that, you know, you've always been a family man. That's one of the things that I admire most about you, is that your talent in this hobby is obvious, and your talent in flying is obvious, but you've never let that get in the way of your family.
Well, back then, again, it was the exuberance of youth. You know, I was a father at 20, and I had 2 children by the time I was 22. So back then, I had a very different approach to it than I have now. Back then, my family was getting in the way of my flying. And to be quite honest with you, I had a lady that, I still have a lady, thank God, 31 years we're married, who kind of put the wood to me in a sense that, hey, you know, make your choice, brother. And I did. And that was one of the reasons why I left competition in 1972. In fact, that was the biggest reason. My family was growing, I had commitments, and again, as we've discussed so many times, this is only a hobby.
Right.
And it
We
will
have a lot of hobbies, which we'll discuss later.
Oh yeah, well.
I didn't want to get to the how you got into the scale.
But the lead up to the Crusader, was the fact that Gene had snapped the wing on the airplane, and you know, back then I just didn't rebuild. In fact, I still don't.
Yeah, I don't either.
They go in, that's it. No matter what happens, I'll give them away before I'll rebuild them. So I decided at this point, you know, my flying was coming on. At this point in time, I hadn't started winning consistently, but I was flying in the top 5 in the East Coast at the time, and you know, I was satisfied with my progress, and I decided that to go out to the Nationals, my flying wasn't good enough to win. I honestly felt that, but so I wanted to just go out there and just make a name, if you want to call it that.
Leave a mark, yeah.
Leave a mark, make my wave, and the Crusader was the start of that. And I sat down. I was very much into scale airplanes. I had profile publications on just about every aircraft that they had a publication on. And I'm flipping through and I see the Crusader. I said, this is a perfect configuration. And what inspired me to build that airplane was the fact that Al Rabe had so much success with his Mustang and his Bearcat series.
Yeah.
And I always liked the jet look, especially with the anhedral.
Yeah.
And I'm saying to myself, you know, if dihedral can work, why can't anhedral? We're in a totally symmetrical environment. What have I got to lose? So subsequently, the Crusader was born.
And that was again a chipmunk wing, as I remember.
Yeah, the wing was working for me. The moments I'll never forget. 10-inch was 9 1/4 nose, 14-inch tail. You know, very short coupled airplanes and
hard
you know,
cornering airplanes.
Yeah, but quite a departure from what they are today. Yeah. But again, with the control systems the way they're developed now, you know, they still corner as well. But back then, it seemed that a blazing hard corner was the was the style at the time, you know.
So the Crusader came into being in that short space between the time you lost the Gemini at Johnsville and the Nationals 8 weeks later.
Right.
And this was an incredibly detailed airplane, as I remember.
Well, again, it doesn't take much to build a stunt airplane. I mean, if you built 2 or 3, you kind of have a routine set, and you as an experienced stunt builder, and most of us who fly competition build at least 1 or 2 airplanes a year. From the time you start cutting wood until the time this airplane goes into one piece, you can have it done in a week and a half, 2 weeks.
I agree with the average airplane. For the average person, you could probably build one, the airframe, in maybe a week, week and a half. Now, we're not talking about the average airplane here.
Okay. You know, maybe you're not talking about the average airplane, but for someone who had done as much building as I did up to that point, conceptually it was a very basic stunt ship. You know, it had the moment arms that were the hot item at the time. Frank Garzone, the speed flyer, famous speed flyer, had built me a Fox 35 that was putting out the power of most 45s, 46s at the time. You know, it had a chrome piston and sleeve, and he broke this thing in for me, and that engine was putting out an incredible amount of power. So between having a good power plant and what I considered to be a good idea at the time was just a matter of making it look like a Crusader. And to me, the thing that made it look like the Crusader was the deep fuselage and the anhedral wing. And I figured, well, there's going to be Navy judges. Let me really go to the wall with this thing. And I decided that, okay, we'll go with the drop tanks and the missiles and this and that. And I don't know if it was cutting edge at the time. I don't know if it was stupidity. I don't know what it was. But it all came together and it worked.
Oh, it sure did.
And it really, really worked beyond my wildest dream. To be honest with you, the planes today fly differently. Maybe the 25-year layoff, I lost a few brain cells since then, you know, but I have yet to have an airplane that flew as well as that plane.
Well, I remember it grooved really well.
Yeah,
it would lay into a corner and just come out flat every time. I remember every time at a contest watching you, hoping you'd blow one sooner or later.
Well, that happened.
And you rarely did. Matter of fact, you, after that Nationals, which you did fairly well at, I guess you did pretty well on appearance points out there.
Yeah, I believe I got 38 out of 40 appearance points.
That's pretty good.
And well, you know, you could say could have been, should have been, but what happened, the result of my last official flight is I had stuck the landing. beautifully, and they had the tar strips in the runways, and the plane was rolling. The reason why I stuck it was very windy, and I had approached the ground on a downwind leg, and I just stuck it, and with the tricycle landing, it was easy to hold it down.
Sure.
And I hit one of those tar bumps at about 20 miles an hour, and the plane ballooned about 10 feet into the air. So that dropped me out of the top. I believe that was on qualification day. That dropped me out of the top 10 for that circle.
But when you got home after that, that airplane was flying so well, and you had some time then on it. You did pretty well with it, as I recall.
I don't think I lost the next 24 meets. Yeah, the plane kicked in for me, and I managed to get enough practice in where I really couldn't do much wrong with that airplane.
I remember you really had a long spell of winning. I think
2 years.
2 years undefeated. And against Gene Schaefer and Lampione and Simons and that crew, that's saying something.
Well, let's face it, there was a lot of halo effect there too. I mean, there were meets that I took first that I shouldn't have, as we all have.
Take them.
You got that right. In fact,
you should lose a few that you're supposed to win.
Right. In fact, the first trophy I ever won, I won't describe the conditions that I won it under or my physical condition, but it was pointed out to me that I really had no right to be on a field, and Bob Lampione came up to me and said, "Doesn't matter how you win it.
Just win them."
Just win them. Right.
Well, I remember right after that airplane, you came out with another airplane that was even more spectacular, and had a very short life, unfortunately. The first of the series we're looking at here on the table, the first Tomcat you produced.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, there's a little story that goes with that also. I was hooked because of the success with the Crusader and its acceptance into the stunt community. That's a big thing in stunt. You can come out with an absolute machine that is technically, aeronautically, and everything else perfect. But if it's not accepted, it doesn't work for you. It doesn't, and that's reflected in your scores.
It has to be the right thing at the right time.
Exactly. And the F-14 to me was, and at the time, the F-14 wasn't even in service. I had designed the original F-14 from a color photograph of the original plywood mock-up. A friend of mine had worked for Grumman Aircraft at the time.
Which, by the way, was down the road from here, Grumman Aircraft.
Yeah, Calverton is only like 15, 20 miles from here. But he had gotten me these photographs, clandestinely, I might add. And just from the photographs, I designed the airplane. Again, I used the numbers that were working for me at the time. And as you mentioned, it was a very short-lived airplane. That plane went in on its 10th flight.
Broken line, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a commercially wrapped, crimped line, and it broke right at the crimp. I have never used that type since.
What do I keep saying? Don't use crimple?
Oh, God, yeah. And so, again, it was more of a scale effort on my part than it was a stunt airplane effort, because it was a stunt plane. Form follows function. You can't get away from it. That airplane was more conventional in its layout than the Crusader was, because it didn't have an anhedral wing. I had just a regular straight wing. I had an OS-35 stunt in it because I needed the extra power.
By that time, the OS had become popular.
Right. And there were little reworking tricks that we did to extract a little bit more power.
Sure, the Tiger rods and so forth.
Right. And the plane, it had potential. It wasn't flying anywhere near as well as the Crusader, but again, it was a different type of airplane, and I broke convention at the time and put everything on the thrust line. Plane worked. It worked really well. Unfortunately, I lost it on a square rate. And at that point, that was around 1970, late 71. In fact, I believe it was on the cover of January 1972, Flying Models, right? And I can't say that one incident discouraged me from flying stunt, but that concurrent with my growing family and the fact that my wife has always been a beach person, I've always been a beach person. We had gotten into boating. We had bought
boating, big time into boating.
Well, no, it was quite small time at that point.
Yeah, well, eventually.
Yeah, eventually, right. But that basically was the last stunt plane I built, again, until 1991.
After the point at which you quit flying control line, you took up some other hobbies. Can you tell us a little bit about those?
Well, when I had gotten out of flying control line stunt, there was about a 2 to 3 year period where I strictly focused on because we had just bought a house. In fact, we had just bought this house. We moved here in July of 1972.
Wow.
And, you know, when you're buying a new house and, you know, you have other commitments, the models just kind of take a back seat. I never lost my need to build. To me, modeling, can I move off this just for a second?
Sure.
This to me is not stunt. This to me is an expression of my creativity. This is the way I am. Whether it's a model airplane, a model boat, a model car, my home, for instance, what I have done here, it's just an expression of who I am. And whether I'm building a stunt plane or I'm building a scale model, I put the same focus into it. Again, you know, I will focus on the purpose of the airplane, but I can't do any less than this. You know, and I say, why do you put so much work into one that can go like that? So why not?
Why not? Yeah.
You know, why not?
Well, I know
I'll build more.
I know you did a lot of model boating and a lot of radio control model airplane flying, which I'd love to get into, but that would take a lot of time because you did a lot of it.
Yeah,
and
sure
you sure made life a lot easier for me when I was working for Flying Models magazine by taking over our boat section and running that for 5 or 6 years, I guess.
Well, again, you started that trouble. I called you up from work one day, and I think it was 2 or 3 years after I had gotten on flying. You know, I always kept touch with my friends, of which I consider you to be one of my best. Yeah. And you very simply said to me, what are you doing these days? And I went off into, we're boating, we're doing cutting grass. And you said, no, really, what are you doing in modeling? And I said, nothing. I just built a radio control boat that I take out on the full-size boat and just race around and aggravate the sailboaters with. And you said, well, how would you like to do the column? And I said, no. Well, how would you? I don't know anything about these, Bob. I just started it. He says, well, that's your first assignment. And 8 years later, it was a total of 8 years, right?
8 years, I didn't have to worry about laying out those 8 pages.
Yeah, I think it went up to 18 pages, didn't it?
Was it? It was a pretty large section.
It went from just a half-a-page column to 18
Well,
full
as much
pages.
as I'd like to talk more about that, because that was an interesting time, and we certainly learned a lot about modeling of different types while you were doing that.
I had a lot of fun, too.
A lot of fun.
A lot of fun.
You eventually came back to control line stunt flying, and when you came back, interestingly, you built 2 airplanes in a row. Once you had built a average stunt airplane of the time, I think you built an SV-11. It was a gorgeous SV-11.
I still have it. That's the one that's downstairs. That's the one I dedicated to my grandson.
It's beautiful. But then you decided to reprise the 2 airplanes that you originally built when you got into stunt competition. You built another Crusader, and then you built another Tomcat. And that was an interesting, you chose to not only build those 2 airplanes again, but in the same sequence that you built them in originally.
Well, they were built in the same sequence, but they were built with an entirely different approach to stunt. They were built with an entirely different attitude. You know, back in the late 60s, early 70s, I had a take no prisoners killer attitude about my competition, and that was one of the things that precipitated, I won't say a family crisis, but it was, my lady knew the right things to do.
Well, you really
and say.
put yourself into things when you do.
Right,
you
you
know,
and it was. But when I came back to stunt, my family was grown. We were on the verge of being grandparents. Had a whole different approach to it. I didn't feel like a killer anymore. I just felt like I wanted to renew friendships, make new ones, and go out there and see what I still had. And what I still had didn't necessarily associate to the handle and the plane. This is a result of what I felt I still had.
Although you still had that killer corner.
Yeah, but it's not as flat as it used to be.
Not as often, anyway.
Yeah, right. But no, that again is a function of not so much not enough time to practice, but a choice I've made to pursue other recreational things, you know, such as my
Well, I think you told me in confidence that you wanted to do the best you could with the time you could devote to it.
Right, and I feel at this point I'm satisfied with my performance. I have yet in 5 years to take a first place stunt trophy. But I've taken a lot of seconds and a lot of thirds, and that's fine. Because to be quite honest with you, not that I don't go out to win, anyone who makes the effort that you've made, and
all the people who fly stunt.
Anyone who makes the effort to get out on the field and come out with an airplane that they have designed and built themselves doesn't go out with the attitude that I'm here to lose, but I go out with a very realistic attitude. And in 5 years, I've only had one occasion to dispute a judge's call, and I basically kept it to myself.
Well,
and
it's a class move.
Well, whether it's a class or not, class move or not, I feel it's a function of my renewed attitude towards stunt. I am back to foster and to support the spirit of stunt. I'm back to build the best possible airplane that I can, the best looking airplane I can, and if it happens to fly well, which this one
does,
yeah, this one's starting to kick in. Maybe I can do something out there in the circle. Maybe I could take home some hardware, but that's not my concern at this point.
Well, in the past few years, you've been writing the, how many years has it been now? You've been writing the finish column for the Stunt News, Pampa's Stunt News.
I joined Pampa when I first came back in 1991, and I believe in the middle of 92, I started doing an occasional column on finishing, and then the full-time job was offered to me to author the finishing column.
And it's been one of the most popular features of the magazine. I know that for a fact because I correspond with a lot of people around the world, and they mention they've learned an awful lot about your about finishing from your column. And you know, this airplane sitting in front of us is a really good example, is an excellent example of the type of work that you do. And could you tell us a little bit just about what the finish is on here and some of the features of the finish and how you've achieved some of the effects that you've achieved, and tell us a little bit about this Tomcat.
All right, well, that's kind of like a big question. Well. All right, well, let's start off with the with this particular Tomcat, and I'll include a discussion in the Crusader too, if you don't mind.
Sure.
With this, basically, visually the planes look identical. The Crusader looks the same as the first one, and this, of course, looks the same as the first Tomcat. But if you were to put a tape on them, two entirely different airplanes. The first Crusader and Tomcat were the technology of the time, the short-coupled airplane, the Fox 35 is a smaller airplane. This is certainly not a 60-size airplane, but these airplanes are easily 20% larger than the original designs. The moment arms are completely different. Of course, the flap to elevator distance and the leading edge to the nose is quite different. The technology is different. I'm using the pipe technology. I've always been a technology guy. Yeah. I don't know the first thing about them, but I know they work.
Of having most modern stuff.
If I was to take it upon myself to set up this type of system, I'd be spinning my wheels. But listening to experts like you and Randy Smith and Bill Werwidge, I call you up and I say, what works? You tell me. I buy it. I use it, and to me, it's working fine. And the power coupled with the new airfoils, again, you mentioned the fact that I had built an SV-11 as my first airplane back. Well, I've built 5 airplanes since I've been back, and they've all been SV-11s. This is an SV-11.
That's a really good example of how you can take an existing set of moment arms and force arrangements and turn it into something that looks like something completely different, and yet have the flying characteristics be very much the same.
Well, the aerodynamic numbers of this airplane are purely SV-11 because I can honestly say that is the best design I have flown, including my Crusader and whatever else I've designed. But again, my designs, as I think 99.9% of the stunt designs out there, emanate and evolve from other stunt designs.
Absolutely. There's very little completely original work.
Right. And that's why I'm glad we got rid of originality. But
but you wish the realism was still around.
Oh yeah. But this airplane basically is an SV-11. The deviations that I made on this airplane, of course, obviously is a fuselage and the double rudders. But if you look at the wing configuration and the stab and elevator configuration, I didn't even change the wingtips because the wingtip design of the SV-11
fits the shape of
fits the overall effect that I'm looking for. It has a jet look to it, so I kept it. And the fuselage, of course, is completely different. But one other departure, again, and I had to give this some serious thought because of the feelings that the experts have, but I decided to go with it anyway. I put everything on thrust line. And to be quite honest with you, I don't notice a difference. The plane flies real. In fact, this is the best grooving airplane I've had since I'm back.
It also has some anhedral though in it.
Yeah, again, as with the Crusader, see, the Crusader anhedral was a function of the original Crusader anhedral was a function of the look I wanted. Back then, who knew about vertical CG?
Right.
You know?
And you have to hit it right.
Right. I had no idea what I was doing, and it came together. The second Crusader, that I actually took a conscious effort to calculate the vertical CG, assuming I was going to use a pipe motor and everything else, and I think I hit it pretty close with that. With this one, because of the fuselage design and the vertical depth of the fuselage being as little as it is on this airplane,
Very minimal, yeah.
I had to do some rethinking with this anhedral thing, and especially since I was going to be using a pipe. So I called Randy. In fact, I didn't actually call him for that purpose, but in discussing this design I was coming up with, he said, well, why don't you send me a copy of the plans? Let me look at it. And I only had pencil drawings at the time. I sent him pencil drawings, and he ran all the numbers through his magical computer. And he came back, he said, put 5/8 of an inch anhedral.
5/8, yeah.
5/8 of an inch, and that's what I did. And
seems to work pretty well.
Dead
though.
on.
Yeah.
Dead on. The vertical CG on this airplane, I get absolutely no rolling motion on hard corners. It doesn't drop a wing. I know a lot of that's a function of tip weight, but inverted right side up. In fact, I have a trim tab out on the wing.
And it's level.
And it's perfectly level. The plane, it just hangs right out there. And this, to me, and I don't know if it's a function of all of the stuff I've got hanging out the back of this airplane, but this thing tracks like an arrow.
It flies
It
good.
really does. It tracks just like an arrow.
The finish on this airplane is pretty spectacular. I know that anyone who's probably viewing this is also probably a Pampa member, but there may be a few who aren't. The Pampa members have learned about how you finish airplanes and how you detail them with ink lines and the various graphic details through your column. And we won't belabor that too much, but just briefly, this is a dope finish?
No.
Nah.
No, this is all acrylic lacquer, automotive acrylic lacquer. The grays I mix just by mixing black and white together. All of the trim colors. See, on the Crusader I made a couple of mistakes. You know, hopefully they weren't that obvious, but I mixed materials, you know, because it was very convenient to go buy these little bottles of paint at the hobby shop and everything else. I figured, well, okay, I'll go easy with the clear but when you always go with that final wet coat of clear, magical things happen, and that plane taught me a really good lesson that you do not mix materials when you. It may cost you a small fortune to paint an airplane such as, well, this really there aren't that many different colors, but the pink SV11 that I had built, that had 6 separate colors on it.
And even pints of acrylic lacquer.
Yeah, we're talking $18, $20 a pint for airplane. I have a complete stock of acrylic lacquer downstairs.
Really makes sense to choose one paint scheme and stay with it over a number of years. And
yeah, but I can't do that. I can't do that. That's not my style. But the entire finish on this airplane is all acrylic lacquer, and I found that by going that, I had absolutely no problems with compatibility, and I was pretty secure when I put on my final clear coats that these colors were not going to migrate on me. And again, with the ink lines, the same thing. The clear on this is the high performance clears. This particular clear.
Yes,
I don't use DuPont only because it's not readily available to me in the area here. I use PPG, and this particular clear is their DCA 468 high performance clear, and I highly recommend it. Again, you have to be careful with I use 10% nitro in my fuel, so you have to be careful about getting the nitro on the finish, but I've had occasion to spot the finish, and it rubs right out. You know, it's to me it's a great material, and it's light.
Airplane. It really is a gorgeous airplane.
Thank you.
I'm sure the video doesn't do it justice what I'm seeing here in person, and we'll get some close-ups of this.
You mentioned about discussing some of the various techniques on this airplane. May I?
Sure.
Okay.
Absolutely.
This canopy, the original Crusader. The original F-14 Tomcat, well, the Crusader also, but the Tomcat, I carried it to a point of idiocy, had a completely scaled cockpit. including
I remember that.
twin ejection seats and instrument panels. It took me about a month to do the cockpit on that airplane. Again, because of the lower appearance points and the fact that, hey, this is stunt, it is not scale. Where do I draw the line? I decided to paint the canopy on. And I won't say I developed a technique of shading in around the canopy frames, but I've done a lot of work with it, and it gives you a very, very stunning effect, especially from a distance. It looks like a real canopy.
Yeah, it really is beautiful.
You know, and basically it's silver on silver. You know, white silver for the glass area, and just a little bit of shading around the canopy bracing. It gives you a very startling effect.
Oh, yeah.
I think so, anyway.
Yeah, it looks great. It looks very three-dimensional.
And the insignia. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Okay.
The stars and bars, all of the rescue markings, the danger markings and everything else, these are dry transfers.
The Dry Set Company?
Yeah, Dry Set makes a real fine product. There are a few other ones, Aeroloft and everything, but I can only speak for Dry Set because that's the one I've been using. And the only problem that I have had with this, and I suspect it's my application technique rather than a problem with the product, is that when the sun hits the dark area, for some reason it tends to have an effect on it. I haven't really determined what the effect is yet.
But the smaller ones don't seem to have it. Just this very large one seems to have it.
Right. Yeah, the small ones don't seem to be affected by it. I suspect it's something with the adhesive. It is a heat-activated adhesive. And again, you know, because of the nature of the finish on these airplanes, you don't like to hit them with that much heat.
That's right.
So when I apply them, I would just dust them with a heat gun and then rub it in with a paper towel. But apparently it wasn't enough to really activate the adhesive.
You could probably end up using the smaller ones since they seem to work real well, and then just use paint or a mask and paint this large one.
Well, should I build another one like this, which I fully intend to do at some point, I will paint them all on again using whatever. Who knows where I'll be at the time? I may be using. I may be back to using dope again, and I don't use acrylic lacquer because I think dope is not good, because you know, there are plenty of people out there using dope, and in fact Wendy uses dope, and this man's a 19-20 point finisher at all times, you know.
Yeah.
So it's not a case of better or worse, it's my choice at this point in time.
Well, speaking of building, I'd like to give our viewers a tour of your shop where you actually do your building. How does that sound?
Oh, I think that's horrible.
Really?
But we'll do it anyway.
Okay. Well, let's adjourn here and take a trip down to the shop.
Okay, let's do it. Well, here we are in the disaster area that I call a workshop.
Well, it looks like most shops I've seen, Vic. It looks like a shop where things get done.
Well, let's put it this way. I have just about what I need to get things done, and not much more, because there's no need for it. You know, any modeler, really, all you have to give them is an X-Acto blade and a straight edge and a compressor.
And a drill press over here.
And a drill press,
Yeah,
right.
that
Drill
helps.
press. Well, I have some of my tools are a little bit more than the average workshop, but not much more. You know, everything is pretty fundamental. I don't do any major engineering down here, just a lot of building.
Well, where would you say your modeling is going to take you next, Vic?
For the time being, it's going to keep me in stunt. I love the event for all of the things we spoke about, but basically it gives me more of a creative outlet than a competitive outlet, because I've been so competitive all my life. I really need to relax now. And what I like about stunt is it taxes every aspect of your modeling ability. Building, flying, weight control, just about everything that you need to create a performance airplane has to be focused on in stunt, and that's what I really, really like about the event. Win or lose is always an issue with me, but my main concern at this point is not to win or lose, it's just to enjoy the event.
And by doing that, you're a winner automatically.
Well, that's very philosophical, but you have to speak to me, you know, after a hot day on the field and thinking I did better than the score shows. Who knows?
Well, Vic, thanks very much for having us in your home and in your shop here, and for sharing all this with us.
Well, it's been a pleasure, Bob, and it's always a pleasure to be speaking with you. But I think what you're doing right now, not only with these videos, but in the hobby in general, I think is a real plus factor, and I think it's going to help to move things further along, especially the way you've helped develop the technology, and not only in other areas, but specifically in stunt. And I think you're doing a great job.
Well, thanks, Vic. Do you have any last comments for our viewers?
Not really. I hope to beat most of you who are watching it. But other than that, no comments, nothing philosophical or sage. Just enjoy yourself, enjoy the hobby, and get what you can out of it, really. That's what it's all about.
Okay, Vic, thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
I'd like to introduce you to Frisky Pete. This is the old-time stunt airplane that I've been flying for the last couple of years, and it's designed by a gentleman named S. Calhoun Smith. You old-time modelers will recognize that name, but you probably remember him mostly as Cal Smith. Cal was a very famous modeler from the late 1940s and early 1950s, and Cal designed not only model airplanes, but also model cars and model boats. In the model airplane world, he designed stunt airplanes and trainers and scale airplanes, and he's also noted as being the father of the Navy Carrier event, an event which promoted Navy flight. And in those days, of course, the Navy was sponsoring our nationals, and many of the people who flew in the nationals, the young men, went on to become Navy pilots and Navy officers. Cal Smith designed this airplane in 1952, and it did not appear in a magazine. It appeared rather in a book called Cal Smith on Model Building, which was published by Fawcett Publications. I believe it was in Maryland at the time. I've tried to track down that publication, but they're apparently no longer in business. I had always liked this airplane. My dad had a complete collection of not only old model airplane magazines, but anything that had to do with model airplanes. And of course, he bought that book in 1952, in which this airplane was featured. And from the time I was a very young man, I had an interest in building this airplane, mainly because it has very sporty lines. It looks very much like a Goodyear racer from that era. Many people have made the comment, and I believe this too, that it has lines very similar to the long midget racer, especially when fitted with the wheel pants and a sporty finish. Cal's original model, on the plans he showed the wheel pants, but he did not build the airplane for the pictures in the article with the wheel pants. I suspect he was running short on time getting that book to press, and he was building a number of models to put in that book, and he cut corners a bit. However, he did publish the plans with the wheel pants, and also with a optional stationary flap, tapered flap. I chose to build my airplane with the straight wing because of the time constraints. I decided to build this airplane only about a week and a half to 2 weeks before VSC-7. I wanted to fly in that contest, and I had already agreed to judge Classic at that meet, so the only event I could fly was old time, and I really had wanted to fly some old time stunt that year, and I built this airplane in less than 2 weeks with which to compete at Tucson. Now, there's some interesting notes on this airplane in construction. This airplane was designed originally to be powered by a Torpedo 29, an old three-bolt backplate Torpedo 29. And I didn't realize when I started building the airplane that the Torpedo 29's engine lugs were not on the thrust line of the engine, as most of our engines are today, including this Tom Hampshire tuned Fox 25, which I chose to use. And because of that, once I had the motor mounts installed and had the basic fuselage crutch assembly done, and I bolted the engine in to carve the spinner shape into the blocks top and bottom, I realized that the engine was sitting 1/4 of an inch higher than it should be according to the plans, and I panicked a bit. But I went ahead and finished the airplane anyway, because I did build it accurately to the plans. The plans showed the motor mounts in that position, and consequently the engine was a little bit higher than it should be, but it was an honest mistake. I wrote Mike Cavill about it, and he assured me that that was okay, but he asked me when I was doing the presentation of this airplane to mention that, and also to show on the plans not only the stock location of the motor mounts for those who might want to try a Torpedo 29 as the original had, but also showing the mounts lower for the more modern engines, which have the engine lugs on the centerline. And I've done that, and the plans for this will be available very shortly. By the time this tape is out, you will be able to order plans for this from SkyTech Innovations. At any rate, because of the lowering of the motor mounts, it became imperative to draw the airplane with a leading edge cutout. The modern interpretation of the old-time stunt pattern dictates that we must fly 2 laps between maneuvers. And because of that, we need a larger tank. And because of that, we need to push the tank further back into the airplane, or put a larger tank compartment in the airplane, and that will, in this case, cuts right into the top sheeting of the leading edge of the airplane. Because of that, I had to put in spruce spars top and bottom in order to beef up the wing and prevent it from breaking under flight load. And again, those modifications are shown on the plans. They're internal modifications, and due to the rules, we're allowed to do that in order to replicate the airplane externally to be accurate, but we can change things inside. And we've done that. Now, this airplane was also built using my lost foam wing method. In that method, we generate wing ribs by cutting up a foam core wing and then generating our wing ribs, and then use the bottom cradle half from which the core was cut as a building fixture in which to assemble the wing ribs and the sheeting and so forth, and come up with a very accurate wing. And this wing built up absolutely straight and flat and flew perfectly right off the board. Required no trim tab adjustment. It flew with only a slight addition of tip weight to keep the wings level, upright and inverted. They were both slightly, the outside wing was slightly upright and inverted on initial flights, but the addition of 1/2 ounce of tip weight cured that. And the airplane's been very successful for me. On its very first day of competition at Tucson, it won the very first round after having only 4 practice flights. I flew it for the first time early in the morning of the old-time competition in Tucson in 1995, and it flew very well right off the board, like I said, and with just a few minor trim modifications in tip weight and lead-out adjustment and propeller changes, we were able to get the airplane to fly competitively enough to win the first round. Ultimately, Bart Klipinski and the scourge of old-time stunt at Tucson, John Wright, finished ahead of me. John won that year, deservedly so. But it did show that the Frisky Pete was a competitive airplane and was a very easy to trim airplane if built accurately. Now, my Frisky Pete weighs 22 ounces, and that's pretty light, but I feel it would fly even better if it were an ounce or 2 lighter. Now, that would be very difficult because I was very careful to choose my wood and hollow the blocks and make the airplane as light as possible. But there might be another ounce or so savings if you were to build it a little more slowly than I did. Again, I built it in less than 2 weeks. And choose your wood even more carefully, and maybe even choose the finishing materials more carefully. In this case, I finished this airplane with the Starline International's Polyspan. This is a polyester weave material, and it has many of the properties of silk. It's very puncture resistant. It's tear resistant from front chord-wise, and it has a tremendous span loading strength. In essence, it's giving you an extra spar because of its tremendous strength. It's very easy to apply. It applies very much like silk span, except you apply it dry because it won't absorb any water. So what you do is you dope the airframe 2 or 3 times in the normal manner, clear dope, and you lay the material over a panel to be covered, and you use highly thinned clear dope, actually almost pure thinner, 90% thin dope, will go through the weave of the material, soften the dope on the airframe, and attach it from underneath, preventing puckering later on. And once the material is attached in that manner, you take a hairdryer, not even a heat gun, just a hairdryer will tighten this material up very tight, very even, very consistent. And then you dope it in the same manner as you would a regular tissue finish. This airplane has a transparent finish on it. And the way we achieved that to make it look very much like dyed silk span was to use Starline International's own aniline dye, which they provide. And they have many different colors. I chose the orange. And this dye mixes with dope thinner. And then you can airbrush the thinner right onto the doped airframe. And it achieves a very even, very consistent dyed finish effect. I used acrylic lacquer blue, in this case a Ford truck blue, to give it some trim for the fuselage. And I dyed the canopy. This is a Sig Mustang canopy, a section of a Sig Mustang canopy, and I dyed it dark so I wouldn't have to put a pilot in the airplane. I feel a pilot only adds unnecessary weight in an old-time stunt airplane, which you're trying to keep light anyway. So I left the pilot out and put a very dark dyed canopy on here. And then I also put a very thin black pinstripe on the airplane, just to give it some contrast to the blue and the yellow and the orange. This airplane again was finished very quickly, 36 hours from start to finish of the finishing process in order to bring it to Tucson. And the day before leaving, I needed to put some sort of protective top coat on the airplane, and I chose Imron. And I know that's really not in the spirit of old-time stunt, but it did give me a finish that looked very much like the old doped clear tissue, dyed tissue finishes of the era. And I was rewarded with the efforts here by winning the appearance point portion of the old-time stunt program in Tucson that year. Floyd Carter built a squaw powered by a Torpedo 29, and that was the award for the best appearing old-time stunt airplane, and we were very proud and fortunate to receive that. There were many, many beautiful airplanes there, and the Frisky Pete we're very honored to receive that flying the Frisky Pete. Now, this airplane has many adjustable features, which of course were not in use back in 1952, but again are legal today. The rules makers feel that it's better to allow adjustable lead outs and adjustable tip weight rather than have the modeler have to cut in and move the lead outs and cut into the tip and install tip weight and ruin the finish of the airplane. And I think that's a very wise rules interpretation. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this airplane apart and show you some of the internal features, some of the removable features. In this case, I'm going to show you the removable landing gear. This airplane was built to fit into a very shallow box. And even though it's a small airplane, you can see that it's relatively deep from top to bottom. It's sort of a deep little guy. It's a squat little airplane. And because of that, it would have required a fairly deep box in which to ship it. So I chose to make the landing gear removable in order to make it easier to ship. And it did. So we'll show how that comes out too. Now, I want to show the adjustable lead out mechanism, and in close up here we should be able to get a good shot of that. And in this case I used the the method where we install a bass block into the wingtip with several holes drilled into it, and then connect those holes with a Dremel slitting tool or a Dremel disc. And that allows us to put the lead outs through grommets, the STIG grommets, and install the grommets into the holes in the basswood block, and achieve an adjustable lead out fixture which is very light and offers a wide range of adjustment. Now the other thing we added was a removable hatch here in the wingtip to allow us to do adjustable tip weight trimming, and this helped very much. Again, on the very first flight, it was found that the airplane needed a little bit more tip weight. I was flying it on very long lines. I was very optimistic about the length of lines I could fly this airplane on, and started out around 64 feet of 12,000 solids, which turned out to be too much. And in retrimming the airplane, I dropped back to about 57 feet of 12,000s, and it flew much better. Matter of fact, the airplane, after some trim flights and some practice, was able to capture the 25th anniversary of the Garden State Circle Burners Old Time Stunt Contest, the 25th anniversary of the very first stunt contest. This airplane won. And I really can't take a whole lot of credit for that, because it was flown by many other pilots, and they have pretty much equal performance. The airplane is very easy to fly, round maneuvers. It's very stable, very groovy, very consistent. And once you get the timing down on this airplane, virtually anybody who has any time flying at all can make the maneuvers look very precise and very exact. And that's one of the reasons I really like this airplane. But again, in order to achieve that, the airplane has to be built extremely light. Now, we're going to take that break and take this apart, and when we come back, we'll show you some of the internal features of this airplane. Okay, now as you can see, we've taken out the engine, and I'm going to take out the tank now, but I wanted to leave the tank in and take it out on camera so you could see just how far back it goes, and just how much into the wing we had to cut. I used a tank strap made out of sheet brass, which I soldered to the tank, and I put a blind nut behind the firewall. And you have to take the engine out, of course, to get to this. But by taking out the bolt, it goes straight back through the firewall, one bolt. You can remove the tank out of the airplane. Let's take out the little foam pieces that we use to support the tank so it doesn't shake around. And got some kind of tab in here. Oh, the tab broke off. Well, it's a good thing that I took this apart. The tab was breaking anyway. We'll have to fix that. At any rate, you can see how far back into the airplane the tank goes. You can see that it goes pretty far back in. Now, if I were to hold this next to the airplane, you can see that it actually goes back into the leading edge about I'd say about 3/4 of an inch. So you really do have to cut into the leading edge a bit in order to get the tank in. And again, an extra spruce spar or spruce bar top and bottom behind the C-tube spar in the airplane more than gives you back the strength you need. You will have to also lower the bell crank, because the bell crank in the stock configuration swings right through the area where we cut into the leading edge. So you will have to either lower the bell crank or move the bell crank aft in the wing. There's no reason not to move the bell crank aft. The position of the bell crank is not really important. It's just convenient to put it there. That's why it is there most of the time in most airplanes. We've mounted many bell cranks in the aft 2/3 of the wing with no problems whatsoever. Okay, so here we have the engine compartment and the tank compartment. And as promised, we're going to show you how we made the landing gear removable. Now what I did was, this is a little difficult to see, so I'm going to take me a minute to get to it. I put a bolt between two plywood formers in the bottom of the airplane that were positioned an 1/8 of an inch apart, or actually 3/32 of an inch apart. This is 3/32 inch diameter landing gear. And the landing gear goes into that slot with a plywood spacer between the landing gear legs, and it squeezes. When you tighten up the bolt, it squeezes together, and the landing gear is then anchored in place. But by removing that one bolt, there it is, we can pull the landing gear straight out the bottom of the airplane. Let's put this upside down for a minute. And again, you can see that this bolt goes through a firewall or a plywood plate, through the hole in the landing gear, and into another plywood plate, behind which is mounted a blind nut. And by tightening the bolt up, it squeezes the two plywood plates together, squeezes them together around this piece of wood which is attached to the landing gear, and prevents the landing gear from coming out of the airplane. The wheel pants on this airplane are simply carved balsa and then hollowed. And the wheels are interesting. I wanted to simulate the wheels of the era. The very popular wheels were the K&B grass cutters, very narrow, thin wheels. They're also very heavy, and they're hard to find now. So what we did was we took a pair of the Dave Brown Products Electrolite wheels, which are about 1/2 inch wide, very similar in width to the K&B grass cutters, and they're normally square shaped, a square profile to the tire. We froze the tires in the refrigerator, and then mounted them on a lathe over at my dad's house, and used a tool post grinder, turning in the opposite direction, and actually formed a shape, very much like the old grass cutters, a streamlined shape. And not only did this give us a tire which was very much scale-like to the tires of the era, but it also, again, took off a little bit of weight. And every gram off this airplane will increase its performance. Well, we're going to take a bit of time here to put this all back together again, put the engine back in. And by the way, as I mentioned, this is a Tom Hampshire tuned OS 25. And I'm very pleased with this engine. It's lighter than a Fox 35. I believe the way it's running at a high RPM with a fairly flat pitch prop, I'm using a 10.4 Zinger prop on it. And it runs about 10,000 RPM, a little better. It's still 2.4s at that RPM, by the way. And it pulls the airplane around extremely well. And it's lighter than the Fox 35 or any of the other loop scavenged engines of the era that I've been able to find, and still gives me the power that I require. So I highly recommend this engine. And we're going to have Tommy, pretty soon here, we're going to have Tommy tell us a little bit about how to rebuild not only Fox 25s, but also Fox 35s. He's got many, many tricks and techniques and tips, and all of his engines seem to run very well. So I highly recommend Tom and his techniques, and we're going to have him on a video very soon explaining how he does what he does. You notice we use a fuel filter. Should always use a fuel filter. And that's about it. We're using Allen head cap screws to hold the engine in. The engine does not mount a muffler in order to keep the weight down, so we can't fly it too close to houses. This has to be flown at Tucson and at Circle Burner Field and so forth. And we're going to leave, we're going to put this all back together now and actually go to the Circle Burner Field and meet up with Tommy and the crew up there and do some flying. So we're going to put this back together and hop in the car, and we'll see you in Lincoln Park. Well, here we are, Garden State Circle Burners, Lincoln Park, New Jersey. Certainly one of the most popular, most famous model airplane fields in all the world. We're here today to fly the Frisky Pete. Unfortunately, Tom Hampshire couldn't make it. He sends his regards, wishes he could be here. The Garden State Circle Burner Field is very noted for flooding whenever we get any kind of rain, and this past weekend we had over 5 inches of rain, real nor'easter as they call them up here. And consequently, the field is quite flooded, and it's not going to be a whole lot of fun flying here today. There is one circle open. We're going to try to get a couple of flights in so we can show you how the Frisky Pete handles. We'd like to thank the Garden State Circle Burners for allowing us to come here and fly our Frisky Pete and videotape it for you. This club is certainly one of the most hospitable I've ever visited, and we have a lot of fun every time we've come here, and I've been coming here since the early 1960s. This gives us a good opportunity to look at the transparent finish on this airplane, and we can see the sun shining through the wing here, and you can see that it really does look like a dope finish over tissue. Well, that was certainly fun. I always enjoy flying my Frisky Pete, and it's an airplane that certainly lives up to its name. It sure is frisky. It seems to fly very fast when you're watching on video, but when you're actually flying it, it doesn't seem that fast. I attribute that to the fact that it's very consistent and stable and grooves and goes exactly where you point it. So you never seem like it's very fast. Fast airplanes that are unstable seem fast, but relatively fast airplanes that are very stable don't seem as fast when they're flying. And this airplane seems to groove along real well. It seems to like the speed I fly it at, which is right around at 5-second even, I guess, fairly quick. At any rate, we've enjoyed it. We hope you build one, and we hope you enjoy yours. See you next time.